Hello everybody, my name is Zen and welcome to the pilot episode of our new series, The Indie Game Spotlight. This is a series where our entire goal is just to spotlight a new indie game every week and really give you a broad range of all the different indie games out there, giving you the idea of what they're like, how they play like, and what you can expect when you purchase them. Before we actually jump into the game of the week, we need to go over a few ground rules for the entire series, and the first is that the series is not actually meant to be a review of any kind for any of the games actually shown. The reasoning behind this is simply because that the bar for judging an indie game is constantly moving. In fact, the entire indie game industry is a very fluid industry to begin with. Now, a AAA title game that you would expect to be, very good has a very standard bar set to its standard. An indie game is pretty different. You may expect different things going into different indie games, and that's why none of this should be taken as a review. Then again, this also is the very beautiful thing about indie games. The whole concept allows for developers to be open to artistic expression, and this helps create not only very unique worlds, but also very unique gameplay experiences, since the developers usually aren't weighted down by publisher expectations. However, this also means that some indie games may not just be what you're looking for, and that's completely fine. One of the goals for this series is actually to give you a fair assessment of the game that is spotlighted. That way you can determine whether or not it is something you would actually enjoy. With all of that being said though, let's actually jump into the first game that we're ever spotlighting, which is Antichamber. Now, Antichamber is a single-player first-person puzzle platforming game. That is a mouthful to say. The game itself was made using the Unreal Engine 3, and it was made by a guy named Alexander Bruntz, and he has a very small development team, so incredibly indie. At first glance, the game actually appears to be very similar to Portal. However, just a few minutes into the game, you realize that it takes a very unique turn, which turns out to be quite good. The first thing that you'll actually notice is that, unlike Portal, the game focuses more on the puzzle aspect rather than the story aspect. In fact, the game's puzzles tend to be way more bizarre and usually involve breaking the knowledge of physics that we currently have about our universe. Then again, this was all actually cleverly designed by the developer to be that way, so all of the puzzles were meant to remove any preconceptions of video game knowledge that you had prior to launching Antichamber. And once you launch it for the first time, it removes all of that, and then it slowly builds it up, a new mentality of video games and critical thinking and problem solving as you go throughout the game. And this isn't necessarily something that you would be used to, but the way he does it is very sleek, and it almost immerses you into the game more than you might have originally intended it to. Now, overall, I would say he totally nailed that entire concept, and in fact, I think it does more than what he was intending it to do to begin with, and it does a very good job of stripping that preconception of video games. Now, once you actually get further into the game, you get a tool that allows you to manipulate blocks to help you solve other puzzles. And these puzzles are typically puzzles that you would have seen earlier in the game, but you just weren't able to solve at the moment. And it's very Metroidvania in design. However, it allows you to get back into the mindset of critically thinking and thinking maybe ahead of time, like, okay, I see this puzzle now, and possibly when I get the tool that I need, or a new tool, I could possibly do this a little differently and figure out this puzzle, and then maybe get to another puzzle that I'll see and won't be able to figure out until later in the game at all. Now, as a little note, I've actually not shown any of the later game puzzles simply because I didn't want to spoil them for any of you who actually want to go and play it. Also, it's better to not watch me stare at a wall for 30 minutes trying to figure out how to do something. Now let's talk about the visuals of the game. They are quite simple, as you could probably tell. However, this is all very intentional. There's no massive Call of Duty explosions or beautiful Skyrim vistas, because all of that simply would distract from the direction that the game is trying to take you. Keeping it simple actually allows you to focus on what the game wants you to focus on, and it also gives the developer more freedom for puzzle creation, since he doesn't have to worry about breaking the world. In fact, it makes it more possible for him to break the world and break the physics and really get you into that mindset of critical thinking. My experience thus far with the game has been incredibly enticing, and it's one of those games that you have a lot of replayability, because you can skip over some puzzles, in fact, and you have actually a timer before the end of the game, so if you don't figure it out, then it'll restart you. At least that's from my experience. Now, as you're playing the game through, you'll find out quicker and quicker ways of doing things, and you can always hit escape and go right back to the main menu area, and then you can just quick travel to another area. So if you suddenly remember how to solve another puzzle, you can go back to a previous area in the game and do so. This is actually one of those very few games that come out once in a blue moon that you really just need to play for yourself. It gives you a unique feeling throughout the entire game. It has a eerie atmosphere at times, and it has a very strange way of pushing you forward to the goal that you need to meet without actually giving you direct directions most of the times. And it's something that you will really only experience, the atmosphere and everything, if you play it for yourself. This is not a game that I would recommend that you watch someone play on YouTube if that's something that you like to do. It will completely ruin the experience, and it is meant for you to play through from start to finish. And as I said earlier, overall I've really enjoyed the entire game. The only word of warning that I would give to you is if you're not really into puzzle games at all, then it might not necessarily be the game for you. However, keep in mind that it does really break down a lot of the monotony that you find in other puzzle games, and it makes it just more fun. It's a very creative world. You can really explore a lot, and more often than not, you'll find yourself having fun rather than getting stuck on a particular puzzle. Now, with all that being said, this is why I chose Antichamber to be my first spotlighted game, because it so perfectly illustrates everything that is good with the indie game scene right now. It gives you a unique game experience with awesome visuals that you won't see in other games. It also gives you a mind-bending experience that will always have you thinking and really just hold your attention the entire game, and not many games are able to do that nowadays, which is why I said it is the perfect illustration of a very good indie game. Now, I could literally talk about this game for the rest of the day, because in my opinion it's that good, it's that mind-blowing. But these episodes are meant to be kind of short and bite-sized, depending on the game that we're covering, of course. And this is the pilot episode of our Indie Game Spotlight, so please leave any feedback that you have for the video in the comments section below. And if you want to see anything different, if you want me to change anything at all, if you want to see anything added, or if you just want to see any game covered in the future, let me know all of that in the comment section. I'll read every single one of them. And lastly, if you want to just support the video, if you liked it and you don't want to comment on anything, then that's fine. Just like the video and that'll let me know that you guys liked it, which is awesome. But on that note, we shall see you guys next time.